So today we're talking about making partnerism mainstream. And the first thing that we want to discuss is what the heck is partnerism? You've probably never heard of this word before if you're brand new to Rion's work. And you may only know this word if you read her book, The Real Wealth of Nations. So what the heck is partnerism? Well, it starts with Rion's work. In 1987, she published The Chalice and the Blade and introduced this concept of the domination partnership social scale. And on one side of it, we have domination, and domination systems are really focused on including certain groups and excluding other groups. It's based on categories. Those categories can be gender, it can be man over woman, man over nature, man over man, it can be race over race. And what we have in that categorization and creating a supremacy, a hierarchy of supremacy, is that we end up with domination in this pyramid. And that domination is maintained by force and fear and violence. And the result of this hierarchy of domination, where we have categories that are considered supreme to others, is we end up with inequality. And the domination systems are characterized by violence and abuse throughout the systems, ranging from, on the small scale, within the family, such as child abuse and domestic violence, all the way to our political systems and economic systems. So let's dive a little bit deeper into domination systems. So some of the in-groups and out-groups I mentioned, the key ones are man over man, man over woman, and man over nature. As I mentioned, those rankings are maintained by force and fear and violence. One of the results of this is that the economic systems that are oriented towards domination create an uncaring economics, where the economy ignores the damages that it causes to humanity and to the planet for the gain of some. Part of the issue with domination systems is that they only account for part of our economic sectors. And in just a few minutes, I'll explain more about those. An issue with domination systems is that it's winners takes all, which is really counter to the psychology of human beings. Most of us have more fun and enjoy life more when we get to share things. And there are numerous studies that show this, that we're happiest when we get to share with each other. And the last thing I'll say about domination systems is that we're currently in a period of regression. These regression periods happen, they follow times when we have periods of progression towards partnership systems. So those periods have been the period of abolition, the period of working for women's suffrage, the period of working for civil rights and winning those rights. And we see in our policies that come after that, that we regress back towards domination. There's a constriction. And why is that? It's because we haven't addressed the underlying issues of being oriented towards domination system. So on the other side of the scale, we have partnership systems. Partnership systems focus on, rather than a hierarchy, we focus on a linking of different kinds of groups, and we see equality in those different kinds of groups. We see equality between men and women and everyone in between. We see equality in races. And what this creates is greater liberty, greater freedom of expression. We see human flourishing. And in our economic systems, we see that care is valued. So to recap that, in partnership systems, rather than a hierarchy of domination, we do have hierarchies, but they're hierarchies of actualization, where care is the foundation of seeing that people come up together. We see equality in gender and race. We see equality in people's choices around religion. When systems are oriented towards partnership, we see that we have caring government policies, and we're able to create an economy that is caring. We account for all of the sectors of the economy. Again, I'll share more about this in a few moments. Partnership systems does focus on free markets, so this is not about taking away a free market system. However, we focus on taking care of the whole, rather than ignoring the costs that happen to human life and to our planet. And then lastly, one major characteristic about partnerism is at that fundamental root, the reason that we go back to those regressive dominator systems is because from childhood, it's been ingrained in us that we are to have these hierarchies, that one gender is superior to others, that one race is superior to others, and that children are to fall in line. So in partnership systems, we focus on developing human capacity for caring for each other, for nurturing each other, and we do that all the way from infancy. So this is the full scale as Rion created it. So partnerism defined in 5 steps is: first, partnerism is a social and an economic system that supports linking rather than ranking. And it has hierarchies of actualization rather than hierarchies of domination. And it invests in human capacity development from the time that we're born all the way through our life. Partnerism is also the opposite of a domination system, where hierarchies of domination are maintained through fear and force in all areas, ranging from on the small scale families all the way to our politics, our economics, and our education systems. Partnerism is the perspective required to develop our human capacity for caring. And it's that perspective regardless of gender, regardless of race, other categories. And it's the perspective required to care for nature. Partnerism is a new social category that transcends conventional ones, such as capitalism and socialism, such as the politics of right and left, such as religious and secular and Eastern and Western. And partnerism is a system in which the work of caring for people, starting in infancy, and caring for nature is highly valued, and it's rewarded in both the market and the non-market economies. And it's rewarded whether it's done by men or women. Partnerism, as I mentioned, was coined in 2000 by Rion in her book, The Real Wealth of Nations. So there's this age-old argument about capitalism and socialism, that one is better than the other. However, where does it fit into the scale of domination and partnership? Well, here's the thing. When we look at capitalism, it's had success in building a middle class. However, it's had tremendous negative impact on the planet, and we've also had a tremendous increase in poverty and issues in the richest countries in the world. So it's not without its faults. Same thing with socialism. Socialism was able to somewhat successfully bring a billion people out of poverty in China, but it came at the cost of human rights violations. So when we look at this, and we look at the fact that capitalism was invented in the 1700s, and we look at the fact that socialism was invented in the late 1800s, we can see that that was a time when women's work wasn't valued in the home, and women were really considered to be property of men. And as such, because there was no caring about valuing what was going on in the home, there also wasn't any thought about caring for our grand home, which is our planet Earth. And so the exploitation of our planet wasn't taken into consideration. So both capitalism and socialism were created in a time and oriented towards domination. And so that's what's at the source of the issues that we have with both of these systems and the taxing that we're seeing going on with the planet. What Rion introduced in her book in 2007, The Real Wealth of Nations, there's 2 different economic maps. She says that we currently, in these systems, both capitalism and socialism, only account for 3 parts of the real economy. We account for the market economy, the government economy, and we estimate the illegal economy. But there's 3 parts that are not valued and not accounted for, and those are the parts that really care about human beings and care about nature. So that's the unpaid economy, the household economy, and the natural economy. And in partnerism, we have a fully integrated economic map where those things are accounted for. So what's missing right now? What's missing is a tool that accounts for the trillions of dollars of value that's created every year, and that goes ignored and unaccounted for by GDP and its alternatives. What we need is a tool that will support politicians and support economists in really valuing the creativity and the work of human beings, that work of caring. So the Center for Partnership Studies through Rion has initiated creating a social wealth index. This is an education and policy tool. It demonstrates the value of caring for our people and our planet. It demonstrates the value of investing in developing our human capacity starting from when we're children. It addresses the issues of the fact that both capitalism and socialism are way outdated. So the real focus of all of Rion's work, if I were to sum it up really simply, is that this is about focusing on how do we develop people to be caring human beings. And one of the things that we need to do is we have to measure and value the fact that creating an empathetic, caring human being starts from the time that they're a child. And we currently don't value that, and we don't measure that. So a simple way to think about partnerism is that it includes everyone. And our goal, the purpose for this call today is that we are out to make partnerism mainstream. And so now I'd like to take a couple moments to share with you about the Make Partnerism Mainstream campaign. In this campaign, we're kicking it off this year. Our goals, I'm going to share with you now our goals for the rest of the year. So first thing is we want to engage 100 members of the TED community. Secondly, we want to engage 50 intersectional leaders. And what is it that we want these 150 people to do? First thing is we want them to mention on their social media about Rion Eisler and about partnerism. Second thing we want them to do is write about partnerism and write about Rion. And the third thing we want them to do is interview Rion about partnerism. We want to get lots and lots of people talking about what the heck is this thing called partnerism. And I'd like to point out the fact that when capitalism, that word was invented, and when socialism was invented, those were new words. They were new isms. There was no precedent for them. They didn't exist before. And so that's what we're out to do now, is create an entirely new category. And this is where we need your help, because we need lots and lots of people talking about it. Our third goal for this year is to publish 3 articles in 3 major mainstream publications. So those could include Forbes, New York Times, The Atlantic, Guardian, The Economist. There are numerous publications that we could publish in. And we're looking for journalists to write a story about partnerism and about Rion. There's a variety of podcasts that we're interested in. We're looking for major cable shows that we'd like to have Rion on. What I'll ask you is to think through what kind of shows or people that you know that Rion could be interviewed by. So let's discuss the required tools for building a movement and making partnerism mainstream. The first is a partnerism website. So this is a website that's under development. We're going to be launching it in August. It'll be a home for all things specifically related to partnerism. This is a project that's sponsored by CPS. We need partnerism advertising content. So that's animated videos, memes, social media marketing materials, digital promotional materials. We need audio content. So creating content bites from the different speeches that Rion has given over the last few years. And then most importantly, we need people talking about the work and sharing the content. So the goal today is to share with you that we are launching an event on August 20th, 2020. It is the Participation Summit. The goal is to make partnerism mainstream. And before I open up the floor here, I'm going to post a link into the chat box. And if this sounds interesting to you, if you'd like to get involved, if you are a graphic designer, or if you know some podcasters who would be an interesting fit to interview Rion, if you know journalists who publish in mainstream newspapers, if you want to help with the administrative side of making this event happen on August 20th, those are all areas where we need help. So that's happening August 20th. And I'm going to post in the chat box now a link to a form, and you can sign up there while we're talking for this next portion of the conversation.